Look, I've been struggling with something recently. I've noticed a pattern in my life that whenever I get really excited about something, maybe that's a project, a new client, or a business idea, whenever I get really excited about it, I go 110%. I give everything. And I can get a lot done and I can get a lot accomplished and I can create some results. But here's what happens is that typically when I start something that I'm excited about, I have a grand vision for it. I have a grand vision for these results that I want to create. And typically the results that I want to create are in a very unrealistic short period of time. What I've noticed is that when I don't create those results in that short period of time or create the results in the time frame that I had hoped, I start to withdraw myself. Apathy sets in, shame sets in. I look to prove everything that I'm scared that I am, meaning I'm scared that I'm stupid or that I don't have anything of value to offer or I don't have the skills to accomplish this thing, that I'm not good enough to have what it is that I set out to create. And so I start to withdraw myself. At that point, I notice myself looking for things to distract me. This could be aimlessly scrolling on social media or finding ridiculously meaningless videos to watch on YouTube. It can also look like just getting a bunch of tasks done that are meaningless, that don't have any impact on the thing that I'm building, but I feel busy doing them. And so if I feel busy, I feel accomplished. Meanwhile, nothing happens on the project that I was excited about. Now, to be completely honest with you, this thing that I'm struggling with is actually this podcast or this YouTube channel that I'm building. I had high expectations for the results that I could create in a very short amount of time, and it just hasn't happened. Now, yesterday was the first day that I noticed me not wanting to give my all to it. I didn't want to make the post. I didn't want to sit down and record this. I didn't want to write the outline or the script. Yesterday was the first day that I noticed my excitement dissipate for the project. Now, luckily, I've been paying close attention to the patterns of my life. This has been a pattern for years and years. I'm 40 now, and this has been a pattern since I can remember. I can remember being 14 or 15 and going out for the high school soccer team, and it was a series of tryouts, and the first maybe half hour, 45 minutes of the first tryout, I didn't do very well. I didn't stack up against the guys that were there, and so I bowed out. I backed out. I didn't finish the tryouts. I also think about 2009 when the real estate market crashed. So many of you know my story, but at that time I was sitting on like 34 properties. We were building, we were converting to condos. We were deep in the middle of all of it. And the recession hit and I gave up. As much as I don't want to admit it or talk about it, apathy set in, depression set in. I can remember days sitting in my office just crying, looking at my computer, nothing on the computer screen because I had just given up. I backed out. Now, I don't know if I could have saved it, probably couldn't have saved anything, or probably couldn't have saved most of it or some of it, but I certainly could have tried. I certainly could have gotten creative and pushed and had perseverance and at least tried. Now, I know that this is a little bit of a ramble, but I'm wondering if you can relate to this. I'm wondering where you go when things get difficult, that you don't create the results that you thought you would be able to create. Now, I've been able to recognize this pattern for the last couple of years. And the gift has been noticing the pattern and sticking with it anyway, like going for it anyway. Now, that's what I want to talk about in this video. How do I do that? What are the systems? What are the ways of being? What are the thoughts and the ideas that help me push through these moments of apathy, these moments of giving up? Because the dark days, it's so easy to give up. But when we give up on the dark days, we never get to see the best days. We never get to realize the vision that we've been working on because, well, every vision worth going after has dark days. I'm gonna say that again. Every vision worth going after has dark days. So if we give up on the dark days, we never get to realize the vision. I've seen that over and over again in my life. I've also seen the opposite, where recently, the last couple of years, I've been willing to hang in the dark days, to use those as a catalyst into the great days, the beautiful, the bright days. The way I want to talk about how I do this is first I want to read a few quotes that have changed my life and just talk about a bit about them. And then I want to give you 3 solid ideas that I use in order to get through the dark days. So first I want you to know if you're going through dark days right now, I believe in you. I believe that you have what it takes to push through them, to get through them, and to use them for the vision that you say is worth going after. I believe in you that you can suffer a bit for what you want. And if you're watching this and you're not going through some dark days, maybe it's really bright for you right now and everything's working and you've gone through some dark days or the dark days are ahead. Either way, I would tell you, it doesn't matter actually. There are always dark days ahead. So either watch this now, take some notes, mental notes, and implement some practices, or save this video for when the days get dark, for when you want to give up, for when it's just easier to just look busy or simply scroll social media. Save this video or these ideas for those days, because these ideas that are in this video have the power to get you through the days. I absolutely believe that. So like I said, I want to read a couple of quotes that have changed my life, changed my perspective about the dark days. And then we're going to dive into 3 principles, 3 ideas that I use to use the dark days for what's coming, for the vision that's available. Being resilient, that's the Stoic philosophy is the thing that has helped me the most in these moments. So the first one is from Seneca. He says, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." The truth of it is, whatever you're going through, whatever's dark for you right now, you're probably suffering more about what you imagine about it than what is actually happening. So for me, with the podcast, the numbers and the connections and all of that sort of stuff aren't happening as quick as I hope they would. So instead of just saying, well, the results aren't happening, study that, figure out what I could do to create new results. And, they're just numbers, they're just feedback, they're neutral, they're not positive or negative, they're not good or bad. I don't go there, at least, I do now, once I get around it a bit. But what I typically go to first is like what it means about me, right? I already talked about this. This means I'm too stupid, not worthy, not lucky, never gonna make it. So those are all the things that I'm imagining this means. Now, if I imagine those things and I believe them, then I give up. And it's when I give up that proves my point that I will never have what it is that I say I want, because I gave up. I believed my imagination more than what was just there, the facts. The next one goes right along with the first one. It isn't the things themselves that disturb people, but the judgments that they form about them. Same exact idea. And I think about this so often. I have this quote right up there where I can see it near my desk, because I know that I create a meaning around the numbers rather than just seeing them as feedback when I'm not paying attention, when I'm not in this mind frame. And then they mean, just like I talked about again, they mean that I'm dumb, or that I'm stupid, or that nobody cares, or that I'll never make it, or I won't have the impact, or whatever. The next one is by Viktor Frankl, who's a psychologist that wrote the book, A Man's Search for Meaning. If you don't know his story, you have to go get that book and read it, A Man's Search for Meaning. If you want to know what dark days are, this is a man who was in the Nazi camps. He was a Jew in the Nazi camps, and created a whole meaning around being in those camps that helped him survive and helped him really help other people survive the camps as well. And I just give you that backstory because you got to understand the backstory to know where this quote is why this quote is so powerful. Viktor Frankl says, "When we are no longer able to change the situation," think about his situation, Nazi camps. "When we're no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." There's nothing he could do really about his situation, where he was at, the conditions he was in, the work he had to do, the boards that he slept on, the feces of the dead bodies that he slept next to. He couldn't do much about that. Yet he created a context in his mind around everything that was happening that helped him survive, and that helped so many people around him survive. This just puts dark days in perspective for me. I mean, my dark days are nothing compared to Viktor Frankl's dark days, so that alone helps. But secondly, the circumstances of what's happening, the slow growth on the podcast, or not winning that contract with that client, whatever it is, some of those things I don't have a choice over, but I get to choose how I interpret them. I get to choose the context that I put on the circumstance, and it can either help or hurt me. And finally, this last quote is from Marcus Aurelius, and it's right in line with Viktor Frankl's quote. He says, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Isn't that what we're looking for in these dark days, in these moments where we feel like everything's crashing down or we're not creating what we thought we wanted? It's really frustrating. All we want is strength. At least that's what I want, is strength to carry on. Marcus Aurelius says something very, very enlightening. He says, you find your strength not in trying to control the circumstances that are out there, the things that are happening around you, but to control yourself. How you react to them, how you see them, how you use them. I find so much power in that idea, is that it doesn't matter what's going on out here. It matters what's going on in here and in here. For those of you just listening to this, it only matters what's going on in my heart and what's going on in my mind. So I hope those quotes offer you some power, offer you some insight. Now, the 3 ideas that I use to get myself through the dark days. And I keep saying getting through the dark days, and I actually don't like that language. I kind of cringe a little bit every time I hear myself say it. What I really want to say is this is where I get the strength and the power to use the dark days. Because the dark days are where the substance is. It's where character is built. When we look back on the journey, we're not going to notice or remember the good days. I mean, maybe some of them, but the ones we're going to remember the most, the stories we're going to tell our kids or our grandkids, is the really challenging days. The ones where we dug deep, found what we didn't even think was there, and kept going. So these are the principles, these are the quotes, these are the ideas that really help me find that strength, find that substance, and build the character that I want to have. So enough preaching. Onto the ideas that I think you could use in everyday life. First one was Lincoln's favorite idea, Abraham Lincoln's. It's questionable who to attribute the quote to. There's a lot of even religious texts and different things that could be the source of this idea. But the idea is, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And look, that is true with every phase of life. This too shall pass. Even the good days, I'm saying to myself, this too shall pass. The dark days especially, I'm saying to myself, this too shall pass. It won't last long. If I've learned anything about myself, it's that I'm cyclical. I have patterns. I go in and out of ideas and ways of being and moods and hard times and good times. They all pass. That's helpful to me. Is that, I'm just doing this for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life, there will be dark days. There will be days where I really feel in flow and connected. There will be days where I feel really lonely and depressed and disconnected. This too shall pass. Here's the second idea. The antidote to apathy is action. I must take action. If I'm waiting for motivation, it will never happen. And if I wait for this phase to pass, it'll take longer to pass, and opportunities will be missed. So I know that action is the antidote to apathy. All I have to do is act. And typically, all I have to do is take the first step. The first step is the hardest. Once I take the first step, the second, the third, the fifth, the 10th step is so much easier. In fact, typically for myself, once I take the first step, I want to take the second step. I'm all of a sudden motivated to take the 5th step. And by the 10th step, I'm on fire. I'm in flow. I don't know if you can relate to this experience, but that first step takes the most inertia. What's the physics principle? I know I'm gonna slaughter it, but an object in motion will stay in motion until another object is acted upon it or another force is acted upon it. It's the same thing with taking the first step. Just take the first step. It's so hard. I think about this with exercising. There are times, more often than not, that I just don't want to go to the gym. But the first step is putting on my shoes. It feels like once I've got my shoes on and I'm dressed for the gym, then it just happens. And by the time I'm doing that last set, man, I'm grateful. I'm in flow. I'm excited that I was there. Finally, the third idea is to come back to the why, the vision. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing this YouTube channel because I believe company founders and entrepreneurs have a really tough job, and most of them give up. It's something like 87% of businesses fail. I'm on a mission to change that. Maybe I won't change that number of failure, but I can at least assist in changing the experience that founders and entrepreneurs have. I can help them enjoy the journey more. I can help them find something that they didn't know they had in order to contribute to the success that they hope for. I'm committed to building a legacy that's meaningful, and this project is a huge contributor to that. That's my why. So often I'm just doing things, getting tasks done, and it feels monotonous or overwhelming or whatever, and I lose sight of why I'm doing it. So in the darkest of days, if I can come back to why am I doing this? Who am I helping? Who am I committed to? Then I create the strength to take the first step that's needed to get out of it. Look, I know this episode has been a little bit rambly, but I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's been valuable to you. I would love to hear from you what sticks out, what you got from it, what you're thinking. And ultimately, what I would really love for you to do is, if you're not going through the dark days now, and even if you are, please save this video for the next time you are, listen to it. These will be powerful reminders that you're on a mission and that the world is depending on you to create the thing that you've said you're going to create. Thank you so much for joining me. Now let's go conquer the world. Peace.